one here. To the red head. Okay, one more here. I'm wondering, camera direction, Mary, if you could talk about camera direction, how you decided to go with this kind of look at the whole stage and expand on that. And for Rose, the question is also about the camera, but how did you, so seeing all of this, the camera focusing on you, mostly throughout the film, and seeing mostly close-ups, quite a lot of close-ups of you. What was the proximity between you and camera, and how did you connect with the cameraman? How did you connect with the camera? So, thank you.
I'll start. At the script level, I already knew how I wanted this film to look, and I wrote accordingly. So the script that I wrote is really a director's script. I wanted to, what I always say is, I wanted to be behind Linda's eyeballs. I wanted the viewer to be that close to her. When we're that close to a person, we don't normally stand that close to a person or see somebody that close, unless they're an intimate partner maybe. But when the face is that close, is that seen, there is nowhere to hide. So Linda spends the whole movie trying to hide from her traumas, from her problems, and from her life, really. But we, as the viewer, she doesn't know that she has nowhere to hide from us while we're watching. And I'm also very, very interested in micro expressions and how emotions can be, when the camera's that close to you, you cannot be big. But Rose was able to elicit big emotions with micro expressions, and that's something that's very interesting to me. I also wanted to create a type of claustrophobia so that the audience could be experiencing that type of feeling that Linda is feeling. She feels trapped, she feels oppressed upon, she feels like the universe is conspiring against her. And by putting the viewer in the position to also feel a little crowded in, I think helps, or what I want it to do is help the audience be with the film in an experiential way instead of I'm sitting back and watching this movie. You're in the movie, you're feeling these feelings, and they're uncomfortable.
That's really great, and I think that really speaks to as well the camera team really seeing your vision. And, and exactly, executing your vision.
Yeah, I want to mention that my cinematographer is Christopher Messina, and he is an absolute genius. And we were able to work together also for many months before shooting, and we got on such a level where I could explain what I want, and he knew how to execute it. There was a shorthand between us. Visually, we were so on the same page. And you were very intimate with him, of course, with the camera.
Yeah, the first day I said, "Oh, could it be that close?" Oh,
And it's not with a zoom. It's a film camera, and it's physically close. Yeah.
And Mary said yes, and I just adjusted. There's a technical kind of acknowledgement of it between you and the camera department, but I think the moment between action and cut, you're working, and no matter where the camera is. So I as a viewer, when I saw the film, obviously I knew that it was going to be have an element of claustrophobia, but I really for me it was as a viewer to see the final product was more than I could have imagined. When I'm in the performance, and we're working, and then to see the actual external kind of product later was truly so compelling. I felt strapped into my seat, and I know that the cinematic language was a huge part of that.
Hi, I'm from the German newspaper, Der Tagesspiegel. I have a question to Mary Bronstein. How did you make the decision to keep the child off screen for most of the movie and then show her at the very end? And also how you came up with the title of the movie.
What was the last part?
The title, If
okay.
I Had Legs, I'd Kick.
Yeah. The decision to not show the child was there's a lot of risks that I take in the film, filmmaking-wise, but that was perhaps the biggest risk, because it was a real, trust me guys, Trust me, guys. But there was no way to know if it would work until it was done, really. But my idea behind that was that Linda is in a place where she literally cannot see her child for who she is, which is a sick little girl that needs a mother. She is avoiding that reality, and she sees her only as an obligation, as another problem, as a thing that's victimizing her. And she can only see, and since we're in Linda's perspective, we do not see the child either. And the other part of it is that once you introduce a child's face onto the screen, with the kind of things that the character is going through and doing, the sympathy is going to go to the child, because now you need to be dealing with a real child. And I was interested in focusing on Linda as a mother, separate from the child. So this is her experience. And the child maybe has a different story to tell, but it's not her story. And then we can only see the child when Linda is able to metaphorically see the child. This is real. Okay, I'm going to try to do this, you know. And the ending for me, I don't call it a happy ending, but I see it as a hopeful ending. As far as the title goes, I love titles. I love interesting titles. And what the title came to me just really in a poof. I didn't sit around thinking of a title. It just sort of came, and I wrote it down. And I see if it was going to work or not, because I came up with it before the movie, before I had been done writing the movie. And then it did work with the movie. And for me, you know, there's a saying in America, you have no legs to stand on. And that means literally you have no resources, you have nothing going for you, your opinion can be shot down very quickly, you have no structure to you. And my idea was that, yeah, Linda doesn't have a leg to stand on, but if she did, she would use it violently.
Hi there, Christian Pogadets from Austria, from the Uncut magazine in Austria. My question goes to the director of the movie, Mary Bronstein. I was really surprised to see people like A$AP Rocky or Conan O'Brien as actors. So I'd really like to know how these stunt castings came about, because I was positively surprised by how effectively and authentically they fit into this microcosm of chaos and panic.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think a lot of people, when they are going to see the cast list, they're not going to, it's hard to imagine how that's going to work, right? Because of how we know Conan O'Brien and how we know A$AP Rocky and their work and their images in the world. I wanted to have non-traditional actors for the supporting roles. One, to give Rose an interesting thing to work with, and two, as a sign to the viewer that I am not playing into any expectations. If you think it's going to be this thing, it's not. It's this other thing. And Conan, I had been a fan of his since I was a teenager, since his first TV show came on air. I've always loved his work. And one night I was listening to his podcast, and he was interviewing David Letterman. And I was listening to their voices, and these are both voices that I've had in my life through television since I was a child. And there's a comfort to that. And then I just thought, his voice, if he gave me advice, I would take it. I would trust him. And I think it's so interesting because, but then of course in my script, the character doesn't take his advice and doesn't trust him, and it's sort of the opposite. And I thought that that would be a very interesting thing to play with. And I was lucky enough that he was in a place in his life where he was like, yeah, I've never done this before. He said to me, I don't know if I can do it. You can fire me at any point. It's okay. But he said, but I would like to do it. I would like to try it. And he took it very seriously. He prepared very seriously. And I'm excited for people to see him in this new way. And the same goes for Rocky. Rocky brings a natural charisma that cannot be directed, cannot be taught. He is that. You know, if he in the script it says wink at Linda, this is a guy that has winked at people before, and it's effective. And you cannot teach that, and you can't train that. And I wanted to sort of harness that and use it. And he, again, was very interested in doing something different. I really lucked out.
Yep. Hello. It's Yannis Rauzeos from Greece, from myfilm.gr. Happy of having you here very much, and for your second very interesting film. I would like to address a question about the existential level that you are working basically as Mary Bronstein, as a filmmaker, in this film. How much in this existential level, you mentioned before expressionism, works the subconscious in this film and the revelation of archetypes? And I would like also to address a small question to Ms. Byrne about these archetypes. How these archetypes are confined, are being used by her character and all the other characters that surrounding her, and creating, let's say, a so-called maybe violent reflection around her. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a wonderful question. So I was coming at it in an extremely existential way. The things that give me, me as a person, that make me anxious and give me panic attacks are existential spiralings in my brain. And so it was a very natural idea that occurred to me to use abstraction and sort of existential dread in the movie, but those are things that you cannot articulate in words most times, and you cannot in a dialogue. You need to show it. And that is why I have what really is an experimental film within the film, which is The Times That We Go Into the Void. And those are all done practically with a probe camera with different elements that we were shooting that composited together. No computers were used. And it was, for me, a way to show, everybody has that part in their brain where they put everything that they don't want to deal with, because if it was in the front of your brain, you wouldn't be able to get out of bed. But it's there. And what does it do to you? It sort of eats away at you, and it needs to come out at some point. And that's how I'm using those elements. But the idea of existential dread is very, very active in the character of Linda. She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know really where she's going. And she doesn't know, she doesn't want to be there in a very profound sense. And so I thank you for that question and noticing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, reading the script, it was so clear to me, these expressions of these feelings, and it's hard to be too literal about it, because it is something that's beyond a dialogue, as Mary put so eloquently, and in terms of the sort of the archetypes of it, what I love about the language of the movie is that whether it's actually happening like this or it's just happening through Linda's eyes like this, and I feel like that was captured perfectly in the tension of the movie and becomes more and more apparent as it goes along. And to me, that line of reality and subconscious, that language is so interesting and fascinating, and something that I relate to and am interested in exploring, particularly through the eyes of a woman about being a mother, which is not something that we always get to see.
Hi there, Adam Plowright from AFP News Agency. I wanted to pick up on the point, Mary, you made about the therapists in the movie, which all of which come across looking pretty bad. I was wondering if this reflected kind of your own cynicism, perhaps, about sort of modern day therapy culture, or whether it was reflected your own personal, perhaps, bad experiences with therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I have been in and out of therapy since I was a teenager, all different types of therapists and different types of therapy. And something that I've encountered a lot as a woman, especially as a young woman, is the sort of going into a therapist's office and explaining the issues. And then there's sort of this attitude from the therapist of like, well, I'm going to fix you. I'm going to fix you. Those other people couldn't do it. I'm going to do it. And it becomes a challenge that I can detect in the person, and it makes it feel there's an automatic tension there. Then we both have a goal, and the goal, is to fix you. What does that mean? But it's also there's a lot of ego in it, and in order to, I think, for therapy to be effective, you have to totally let down all of your stuff and really be vulnerable and lay bare. It doesn't work if you're not doing that. And so I was interested, so the therapist in the movie and Linda's behavior in therapy is an amalgamation of all different kinds of therapists I've had, and also that moment in therapy where it is not productive, it is not working anymore, and the two people are holding onto it because to let go would be a failure for both parts, right? And Linda is, there's also a lot in there about, I'm very interested in psychology, and there's a lot in there about transference and countertransference. These two are taking their therapy time very personally, in a way that is not appropriate. And I also just I've seen so many movies and television shows that depict therapy sessions, and as someone that goes to therapy, they're not right. They're not right. It's therapy. It's not a guy with his beard and he gives the right answer and it's like, oh, okay, and I have a discovery about my childhood that I never knew. It's those things, maybe they happen, but on television and film, it's so neat. And really, therapy is very messy. So that is what I was interested in showing.
Hi, Elise here from Variety. I was wondering, going back to A$AP Rocky, I know he hasn't been able to take part in a lot of the press due to his ongoing trial. I was wondering if there's a message you wanted to send to him today.
Well, I'm in touch with him personally, so I don't need to send a public message, but all I can say is that working with him was a complete delight, and he was wonderful to have on set, and we really enjoyed working with him.
Yeah, he was a total pleasure, and such a true Renaissance man. Mm-hmm. He lives and breathes art and fashion and film, and he has such respect and reverence for all of the genres and all artists, and I was totally disarmed by him, so yeah.
Hi, my name is Daria Tarasova. I'm with the Russian website Kino Teatr, and thank you for this wonderful movie. Congratulations on it.
Thank you.
And I have a little question about the filming process. Mm-hmm. So obviously it's a film about someone spiraling down, and I keep wondering how exactly this spiraling down was filmed. Was it filmed chronologically, or what was the process behind it? What was the chronology of the filming process? Thank you.
That's a really interesting question, and it's a testament to Rose's ability as an actor, because this was not shot in chronological order. This was shot completely every which way and sideways. And so the work that Rose and I did before we filmed, that was part of why I wanted to work with her so intensely and was so happy that she was game for that, is that, yes, at any given day that we're shooting, we could be at the beginning of the movie, we could be at the end of the movie, we could be in the middle of the movie, it could be one right after the other. And it's knowing the emotional beats and the emotional story that was extremely important. And I even made a chart.
We had a lot of few charts, didn't we?
We had so many charts. There was an emotional chart that said basically like, break it down for Rose. I don't know, break it down for Rose, where, you know, it's like, okay, day one, we're shooting these scenes, but here's where you are emotionally. And I sort of had keys that was like, Linda didn't sleep last night, or Linda slept 1 hour and she had 3 bottles of wine, or she slept, she didn't ever go to sleep and she had 3 bottles of wine and she smoked pot and she hasn't eaten. And these things.
It's very specific and interesting to me, because I needed to track, because she's drinking and smoking and not sleeping and not eating. It's like that is the accumulation of that has to be seen in the performance, and so that was very important for us to track, because we were in the middle. At the end, we were all over the shop when we were actually shooting it,
and we always checked in before a scene. Well, this is what happened just before this. We didn't film that now, but remember, this is what happened just before this. You're just coming out of this thing, and here's your physical state. The physical state was something that I was very interested in getting right. There's another chart where we were able to track that, and it was very purposeful and mathematical, because it's one of those things that really bothers me in a movie if it's wrong.
Hi, Helen Barlow from Australia. I'm not sure I've ever spoken to you, Rose. 34 years I've been in Berlin and Cannes, and yet you've evaded me, or I've evaded you.
Oh, nice to meet you.
But you're really going to be, you're already on a campaign, I guess, for the Oscars. It's all the news out of Sundance, is that you're going to be nominated for an Oscar next year. Do you feel that this was a really special performance that might merit that? I feel honoured to be here. Berlin is such a wonderful tradition, and I feel like the film will have a great reception here. It is an art film, you know, it's truly an expression of Mary's vision, and I feel, you know, grateful to have been part of this from the beginning. The script, I inhaled it when I read it. It had such beautiful symmetry. It was such an examination of a person in crises and what that does to you, and how you and how that feels and how that looks. And an examination of motherhood through the eyes of a female director, which is something I have explored a lot in my career, but this felt like a true culmination of many things, and so I felt very grateful and lucky to be part of the project. And the awards buzz? I know. I mean, it feels like
she deserves it. She deserves it.
It feels so far.
It's so far
ahead.
It's
very flattering, but I can't even imagine being in that position. You know, but for now, it's been such a joy to be here and to share and show this movie, which is a true cinematic experience, and I can't wait for people to see it.
It is. Well, thank you both for coming here today for this press conference, and congratulations on the film.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. There were some good questions.
There were some really good questions.
Can I take this?
It is yours.
I love the German words.
You cancel her.
Oh.
Rose, please. Rose, please, this way. Rose.